Another provision of last year's bill would put a number of restrictions on repetitive traumas and claims for those. How does the NFIB and small business feel about these repetitive injury claims?
We think it's important that for the first time we put some definitions about repetitive trauma into workers' comp law. It's been seen over the past couple of years through commissioner hearings or Supreme Court cases that they're starting to write repetitive trauma law, even though that's not currently part of the statutes. And so we asked our membership about repetitive trauma, and 89% of our members said that we need to have definitions clearly written into the law that mean exactly what they mean on paper. And so we're looking forward to working with the legislator to make certain that repetitive trauma is defined by the law, and that there are some compensable repetitive traumas and there are others that aren't going to be compensable that are just part of the normal aging process. And so we think it's critically important, if we're to get a handle on repetitive trauma cases, which are becoming more and more prevalent, that we've got to have some basic definitions that are there so that the workers know what's compensable and what they can expect if they ever happen to have a claim involving repetitive trauma, and what's not compensable, that's just part of the normal aging process.
So small business isn't necessarily for eliminating all these repetitive trauma claims. Y'all are just wanting definitions on
right.
the
We need some predictability and clarification as to what is repetitive trauma and what is going to be compensable, because there are some parts of life that everyone just gets old. It's not a repetitive trauma, it's just part of the aging process, and those things have never been compensable under workers' comp law. But because we didn't have any definitions on repetitive trauma, we've seen cases go forward in the Supreme Court, for example, where they've actually given folks awards for these repetitive traumas when they really are just part of the normal aging process. So we're looking to make certain that the workers are covered, that they know exactly what's a repetitive trauma, what's compensable, and what's just part of the normal aging process.
Another thing that reformers are pushing right now into workers' comp reform is the repeal of a court decision known as Tiller versus National Health Care. Tell us a little bit about that decision, and also why non-expert testimony should be allowed in court cases involving workers' comp.
Well, the Tiller case, as it's often called in the Senate committees we talk about, basically was a Supreme Court case that said that you don't have to have a medical expert, a medical physician, to prove causation in a medically complex case. We asked our membership, should we require that medical testimony? And 93% of our membership said absolutely, you should require medical testimony by a medical physician in a medically complex case. We're not asking for folks to take away the ability to have other testimony given. That's part of the workers' compensation process, is allowing different kinds of testimony. But if you're going to have a medically complex case, it makes common sense to make sure that there's a doctor in that room that's telling folks exactly what the injury is and what the injured worker can expect to be able to do in the future with their condition. It's a very simple fix, we think. We think it was a bad court decision, like a couple of others as well, and we look forward to seeing that as part of the bigger reform package.
All right. And if workers' comp successfully goes through the legislature and gets passed into law, what type of economic impact do you think it will have on small business or just business as a whole?
I think in general it's going to have a huge impact in this state. We've seen it when Secretary of Commerce Joe Taylor goes out to recruit big businesses. He's spoken a lot about the fact that when he goes to recruit them, they ask about workers' comp, and he has to unfortunately tell them, well, we don't have the best system in the world, we're working to get it better. We don't have the best system in the world. So we are at a disadvantage right now compared to our neighbors in Georgia and North Carolina and Florida, as they've reformed their workers' comp systems over the past few years. So we need to do that to help better recruit businesses in the state. But more importantly, it's about the underlying economic foundations of this state, which is small business, and how can we make the conditions right for them to grow all over this state and every county. And workers' comp is just one of those business costs that you have to keep under control if you're going to have a vibrant small business and entrepreneurial community in this state. And we think with a comprehensive, meaningful reform package signed into law this year, we hope we'll be putting ourselves back on the path to prosperity.
All right. Well, thank you for informing our readers and viewers about the debate going on in workers' comp right now. We really appreciate having it.
Appreciate that, Tim. Thank you.
All right.